We're just gonna get into it. We're just gonna get into it. Whether you are there or not, it's just gonna happen. We're just gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about the question of the week, which is, how do batteries work and why do they corrode? Now, as I said earlier, this question was given to me by my loving mother, and it's a perfect question for me because literally batteries are everywhere and it's all about chemistry. So first, to understand how they work, I designed another just stunning graphic presentation for you guys to show you exactly how batteries work, and then we'll talk about how they corrode, the second part of that question, after that. So here's Ed, and to understand how a battery works, we need to understand why Ed is on top of this hill. He's on top of this hill so that he can sled down the hill as fast as he can. He may roll over, he may flip over, but it doesn't matter. The point is, right now, he's at the peak of this hill. And as he sleds down this hill, he gets to the bottom, and he was like, wow, that was amazing, I want to do it again. But he looks over, and what does he see? He sees my wife trying to do a TikTok video. And what does this cause? Since everyone's sledding down one side of the hill, it causes a crowd to back up. So now, since my wife is clogging up the entire pathway back up to the hill, we've got this crowd of people who are unable to get back to the top. Basically, we can call this a gradient where you have so many people down at the bottom and not very many people up at the top. So this path is now congested and everyone's like waiting to get back up to the top of the hill. So does everyone have the scene in your head? It should be quite simple. We can go over it again. Ed at the top, Ed at the bottom, sees my wife doing a TikTok video. There's a crowd backing up. Now what's going to happen? Ed's going to try and get up because he wants to go back down the slide. He wants to. It was so much fun. But he can't because of the crowd. And so, oh wait, what? What's going on here? Are you serious? Are you serious? There was a witch. The witch turned this whole entire scene into a battery to recharge her broom. And so what happens? This happened. And so that scene that I described to you back here is literally exactly how a battery works. So let's take Ed at the top of the hill. So to kind of go over this in a overall scenario about energy, we have to start with potential energy. So right here at the top of the hill, Ed is at his max potential energy. He's at the highest point he can get on this hill. And so this is going to give him the max kinetic energy, or his energy that he is expelling as he goes down this hill, by being at the top point. And so at this max potential energy, as he sleds down, his energy slowly turns into kinetic until all that kinetic is gone at the bottom. This is exactly how a battery works. We have all this potential energy, except instead of potential energy, we're going to call it chemical energy. And this chemical energy is turned into electrical energy, and this is how the witch is going to power her broom. And so you can see here we've got an anode and a cathode. So the anode is where this mass of people is. This is where this group of people is, and we're going to call them electrons. And so all of these people that the witch has now turned into electrons are going to try and flow over to the cathode. And due to that flow, it's going to flow through this light bulb, and this light bulb is going to charge this witch's broom. And so the electron flow is actually the energy that's producing a voltage, which is enabling our computers, our phones, our laptops, everything you see around us to work. And so as these electrons, as you can see, Ed is sliding down the hill essentially as he flows along the top of this path. And so he's flowing from the anode to the cathode. And the anode, he says, max potential energy. And then we have a chemical reaction, and that enables Ed, or the electron, to flow out of the anode, across the wire, through the light bulb, into the other cathode. And then when he goes into the cathode, another chemical reaction happens, which expels a proton. These protons aren't able to get over past my wife with the camera because it's a semi-permeable membrane. And so this enables this backup, which controls the flow essentially in this basic scenario. Now, batteries are so much more complicated to this today. I know I went over that super fast, so if you have any questions, make sure you let me know in chat and I'll answer them. But I'm just going to go over this one time without any of the explanation that I just did. I'm just going to go full science words. You're looking at a simple battery right here. We have an anode on one side, which wants to get rid of its electrons. And we have a cathode on the other side, which wants to take electrons. And then we have this electrolyte solution, which in our case here was just the air, which turned all of the air from Ed's slide into an electrolyte solution. So we have an anode, which wants to get rid of electrons, a cathode, which wants to capture electrons, and then the electrolyte solution, which both the anode and the cathode are laying in. And then we have the semi-permeable barrier, which prevents all of the positive ions, as many of them as possible, to cross over, which causes both a gradient in the electrolyte solution, where you have a bunch of positive ions on one side, and it enables all of these electrons to stay on the anode side, so they all at once just don't rush to the cathode, and this increases the lifespan of the battery. It's been optimized so many times. That was a huge overview, and I know I'm going over this super fast because it's really hard for me to slow down, because this is what I've been studying for like 4 years in college. And so make sure to ask questions about some of this verbiage, because to me this is like second nature. It's the first thing I think of. And so if you don't know what an electron is, if you don't know what a cathode is, make sure you leave me a comment or let me know in stream, and come to my stream and talk about it, and I'll answer any science questions you have, because I literally love science. And so this is how a battery works. Essentially, in this electrolyte solution, the anode reacts with the positive ions in the solution. It comes to the metal, so a positive ion comes to the metal, it attaches, and when it attaches, a chemical reaction occurs, which releases an electron. And then that electron flows through the light bulb and then into the cathode. And when it enters that cathode, it then reacts in the cathode and expels the positive ion, which then is the end of the reaction. And then you have this buildup of positive ions, which then slowly flow to the anode and then react. As a recap of what we went over before I went into corrosion, which was the second part of the question asked, we're just going to recap. Anode, cathode in a solution. In that solution, the anode reacts with positive ions, positive parts of atoms or molecules, attaches to that anode. The anode then releases an electron, flows through your device, which enables it to heat up, cause light, or do whatever, charge your computer or your battery. And then it goes into the cathode, where it has another chemical reaction, and then that releases a positive ion. Now, I can go more into depth about exactly what powers your computer, how exactly those electrons signal your computer to turn on, to light up your screen, to make this color orange or this color green or blue or purple. But that's not the question here. That's the big but. It's not the question here. The question that was asked was, why do batteries corrode? And so this question is fairly simple to answer, because in this electrolyte solution, there's typically hydrogen molecules that are bonded either in some way, because that's your form of protons. Your protons are your positive ions that you see here, these blue circles. And so essentially, if you leave your battery long enough, that those positive ions start to evaporate outside of the solution. They turn to hydrogen gas. And so that hydrogen gas essentially expands, and as it expands, it causes breaking. This is especially in your AA batteries. It breaks seals, and it allows that solution to seep out and into the environment, which then cakes onto the edges. So when you pop out your AA battery or whatever, and you see that it's caked in this just salty solution, it's because it is literally an electrolyte solution. It's mainly based in salt that also has hydrogen H2 molecules in it, which turn into gas essentially. And so corrosion in the AA battery sense is just that. It's hydrogen gas that's being produced in small molecules. It's not dangerous. And then slowly that'll break seals, allow that solution out, which will then dry and cake up your battery. Now, if we're talking about car batteries, it's kind of the same thing, except the issues can vary, and it kind of depends on what's actually going on in the environment. With the hydrogen gas that's coming out, it's very reactive, especially in the hot environment of your engine. And so it can cause the lead just to corrode. That hydrogen gas that's released, it can cause it to corrode much, much faster. And so it'll essentially break down the outside of your lead ion, or your lead charge that goes into your battery. And so really the best thing that you can do here is, if you see this in your battery and you attach it early enough, you can really scratch it off, clean it up, and then you can buy Velcro. It's almost like Velcro holders that you can pull down, and it'll hold it all the way down, and it'll prevent that hydrogen gas from leaking out. But if you're able to, I would just get a new battery. It's essentially, you have an old battery and it's dying already, especially if it's doing this. The seals are weak, and they're starting to release this gas. I mean, at some point you have to replace your battery, but always consult with an electrician if you have electrical issues, or your mechanic if you're experiencing car issues. But just know that some of these signs are sure signs that your batteries are getting old and their seals are leaking. Because if this battery is not being used and it's just sitting there idle, it wants to react. This battery is meant to react. And so if you're not using it long enough, it starts to react with itself, which is it's if we design it to react, it's meant to be used. But if it's not getting used, it's going to start to do things we don't want and start to release this hydrogen gas. So if you see any AA batteries that you have lying around that are corroded like this, just throw them away, dispose of them properly in the correct electronics bin or whatever, and make sure you keep regularly checking your cars for corrosion, and so it doesn't let these issues persist, because I know it's only going to get worse. It really is. It's only going to get worse. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this talk, because I really did. It went by super fast and I felt like I was talking super fast. But I really enjoyed it, and I really think you guys enjoyed it as well. And I'm sorry if you showed up a little late, but I just want to make sure that the people who are there, like Adrian, Qui-Gon Jinn, Jay Boone, thanks for hopping in and joining the chat. I really appreciate it.